Hello, people of God. I'm looking forward to this series. Okay. All right. I just got through teaching my class, so I want to make sure I got the right notes up. I almost didn't write notes for this particular class because I always kind of like to go off my head, or whatever Holy Spirit gives me more so. But at the same time, I do like having something right there in front of me to give me a guide or what have you. So we're gonna go from both. I'm gonna go from my notes and whatever Holy Spirit gives me. Today we're going to be talking about marine spirits. I'm going to be dealing with the Delilah spirit. This is a prophet's worst nightmare in disguise. And many of you are prophets or you're prophetic people. And I always talk about the Jezebel spirit, right? Which AKA is what the world of psychology refers to as the narcissist. The Jezebel spirit being the worst thing that has ever happened to the prophet. But um, I don't know if I've introduced you guys to the Delilah spirit, which is also one of the prophet's nightmares. So those two particular spirits work in tandem. They work together to ensnare prophets and prophetic people, and they are very good at doing this. So today I'm going to give you a crash course in marine spiritology. That's what we're going to call it. Sister Elizabeth, God bless you. Thank you, sis. I'm going to give you a crash course in marine spirits, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Delilah spirit. Then we're going to turn in for the night. Do me a favor as you come into this space, be sure to like and to share. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button right now to get more of this. This is going to be a series. I want to do a lesson on marine spirits. I want to talk to you not just about the Delilah spirit, but about other unclean spirits that fall under this category. I want to give you a broad understanding of what marine spirits are so that you can have the understanding that the Bible says you should have. God said, above all that, getting good understanding. Sister Octavia, you're awesome. God bless you. Sister Sharna, God bless you. Thank you, sis. Love and appreciate you. All right, so I'm not going to belabor the point, as my apostle would say. I'm going to jump right into this lesson because I got some notes to give you. And also, I want to go on record saying this. There's a lot of theories surrounding marine spirits, right? I have a lot of theories. A lot of people, and most of the time, I know for myself and a lot of people that I know that are in ministry of deliverance, we base our theories on Bible, right? We base our theories on Bible. So if I give you a theory, I'll make sure to let you know that it's a theory, or what have you. But I do have some theories about marine spirits. Starting off, jumping into it, um, the book of Revelations, it gives you a crash course. It gives you the beginning. It gives you, even though that's the end, it really gives you an introduction to the beginning. You find Lucifer or Satan and his angels in heaven, and they are about to have a fight with Michael and his angels. And Lucifer and his angels found no place in heaven anymore. Of course, we know that they were God's angels, and then Lucifer deceived them into the same deception he gave Adam and Eve. Basically, you can be your own God. Why are we following him? We can have our own kingdom. We can have this. We can do that. What have you? So 1/3 of God's angels fell as a result of that great rebellion. And so consequently, there was war in heaven. Now, I think this is the first thing about demonology that you'll learn is you'll notice that this particular war in heaven, the Bible doesn't talk about God coming out to fight Lucifer or coming out to fight Satan and his angels. And that's the reason. The reason for that is it has everything to do with rank. God would completely crush them. So every time when you're dealing with demonology, a lot of times everything is going to be dealt with in rank. And so it was Michael and his angels that came and fought Satan and his angels, and they cast them out of heaven. Where were they cast to? They were cast to the earth. Hey, Mama Meadows, love and appreciate you. They were cast into the earth. Now, once they're cast into the earth, what then happens is we see the formation of Genesis. So we don't know what order things come in, but also I think the mistake that we make is thinking that everything has, like, we think in time increments, not understanding that until earth was created, time wasn't a thing. Time is something that the people in the earth are limited to, but once you come outside of earth, time simply just does not exist. But God created the heaven and the earth. And you go to Genesis 1, it talks about God creating the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And this is where we started getting into theories and what have you. And one of the theories is the darkness that we see. Brother Andre, I love you. Thank you. God bless you. Sister Karen, thank you. God bless you, sis. But the darkness that we see is the dwelling place of the enemy. That's just a theory, because the enemy, they were cast into the earth or what have you, but that's just a theory that, they were cast into, and of course, the dwelling place of the darkness is upon the face of the seas. And this is where we get our introductory course to marine spirits. And again, that part there is just a theory. But I'm going to start off reading some scriptures to give you an introduction into marine spirits, because I want you to understand if these things are moving throughout your family. And I want you to understand another thing, that 9 times out of 10, they are in your family. 9 times out of 10, especially a lot of us from, because they are heavy in Africa, we African American descent. Marine spirits are really heavy in our families many times, and I'm going to help you to understand whether or not they are in your family. And we're going to talk about what to do. How do you confront marine spirits? And this is going to be something I'm going to be dealing with over the next couple of weeks. How do you confront marine spirits? How do you bring them down? Another thing I want to go on record mentioning, and Facebook, where y'all at? Let me know that y'all are here. Be sure to like and share. And also YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and you share all that. If you want to learn more about the ministry of deliverance, if you want to learn more about the ministry of deliverance, raise your hand. If you want to learn more about the ministry of deliverance, or if you need deliverance, if you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, my church is hosting a deliverance conference of sorts, and it's every Saturday for the next 3 weeks. We're going to be hosting that for the next 3 weeks, every Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m. So get out of your house, get off your cheeks, come on out. And it's going to be at 4665 Macklin Road in Powder Springs, Georgia. So don't sit at home. If you're not local and you say, hey, that's a little bit too much, too much of commute every Saturday, what I will tell you is this, that it will be available on CD. There will be a course available if you want to purchase it. But right now, if you just come out, if you're in the house, hear me when I say this, if you're in the house and you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, come out. It is absolutely free, unless you want the student price or what have you. You can get the book, the e-course, you can get all of that for a student price. But to come is going to be free, and it's going to be a mass deliverance in the end. The 4th week I teach, Sister Octavia, I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you, sis. I'm going to be teaching, and we're going to have a mass deliverance. So if you're in need of deliverance, can I say something that may convict you, but it'll set you free as well? Don't ever put a price tag on your deliverance. So if you happen to need deliverance and you hear we doing a mass deliverance, buy you a flight. Don't sit there and listen. Don't choose that $200 over your freedom, because your freedom may lead you into 20,000. Okay. I just want you to hear that from me. Don't ever sit back and say, "Well, I can't come. It's just too far." I get it. Like every 4 weeks, or every week, I get that part, not being able to travel out. But I will say this: if you can come out, please do come out. And if nothing else, come be a part of the mass deliverance. It's going to be amazing. And if you've been needing freedom for all these years, don't reject your freedom because you're concerned about the money in your pocket. You rather go get yourself a lace front. That is the craziest thing. People put more on their head than they put in it. So that's the craziest thing in the world to me. So if you need freedom, like I said, it's a free conference. Get your tail out your house. Come on out there and get your freedom. We already have people that have been traveling in the town to get there. So today, again, I'm going to be giving a crash course in marine spiritology. That's what I'm calling it. Marine demonology. We'll just call it what it should be called. I'm going to talk about marine spirits, but I'm going to really focus in on the Delilah spirit. Revelations 12:12. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. because he knows that his time is short. So the Bible says that woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. So let me also make sure I say this. I'm not here to prove the existence of marine spirits, because if you're a critic, you're gonna be critical, period. What have you. I think that when you're dealing with a critic, the only way that they can understand that something does exist is you come to the deliverance conference. When you see demons manifesting in people, you may get enough faith up so that you can get free, right? You may get enough faith up. So let's go to Revelations 13:1. I call myself pulling up these scriptures. I did. I got it. Matter of fact, no, let's not go there first. Let's go. Before we go anywhere, let's talk about Samson. And I don't think I need to read his particular story to go into it. And Samson's story, I think, is in the book of Judges, where there's this case with Samson and Delilah. Now, Delilah is what we're going to be talking about today, which is the Delilah spirit. But Delilah was this beautiful woman that Samson comes in contact with, falls in love with her. And you guys know what I teach about falling in love. It's just this thing that we have. It's culture. It's not a real thing. There is no such thing as falling in love. You either love or you don't. The Bible says that God is love. So if you say I love you, you are literally saying I have God's heart for you. And if somebody doesn't have God's heart, they cannot have God's heart for you. The concept of falling in love has everything to do with a bunch of feelings: butterflies in the stomach, racing heart, sweaty palms. We experience that. It's just serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. We experience that when people say the right things, when people touch us, when they look at us a certain way, when we're listening to certain songs. They produce a chemical reaction in us, and those things we can bring you under the influence. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Most people are addicted to that feeling. Most people are addicted to that feeling. And I know I was young in the world. I came in contact with plenty of guys who, were like that. I came in contact with plenty of guys that would come up and they would sit back and, if I exchange phone numbers with them and we talking and what have you, they look at me and they just say, Tiffany, I'm so in love with you. I want to be with you. And they go to talking and what have you. And I came to understand this. And I came to understand this coming up in a broken family and seeing broken Casanova type dudes in my family that were able to get women. I came to understand by watching them that many of them genuinely believe that they have something, that they're in love. They believe that, hey, there's something special about you. And I just want to be with you. And I want to have babies with you. And I want to spend my life with you. But I literally watched these dudes sober up. Sister Black Diamond, thank you. God bless you, sis. Thank you. God bless you. But I literally watched these dudes sober up. And I always talk about this friend my dad had. I watched this man go through women. I watched this man. He was around since before I was born. I watched that man go through women. And I watched him come to my dad's house, come to our house, growing up. And he would always, he would start off, he'd talk about a woman. I remember hearing my dad say, you always say that's the one. You think this the one too? And he had this same old pattern. It was the same pattern. He would meet a woman, and he was a truck driver, so he was making a lot of money. But he had this same pattern. He would come in contact with women. Dude would go to cloud nine with these women. I'm talking about he think this is the one. I want to be with her. And he had a pattern with these women. And I talked about him before, where he would spend lots of money on them. He'd pay their rent. He'd go get them a new car. He would never buy the car flat out. He would have them put the car in their own names. He would pay the down payment for the car. He would send them roses on their jobs. He would do everything to bring those women under the influence. Why? Because he was under the influence. He would do all of that, and then he'd ghost them every time he sobered up. Because that's all it is. He would ghost them as soon as he sobered up. As soon as a woman got accustomed to that lifestyle where she's not praising him anymore, she's not worshiping him, she's just kind of accustomed to him paying her rent, she's accustomed to having this type of lifestyle, he would kind of sober up. Then he'd come in contact with another young woman who he loved women that were financially in distress, right? Women who dealt with rejection. He loved those type of women. He would get in a relationship with that woman and he become her everything. He will become her hero and he thinks she's the one because she's worshiping him. She's excited about the box of perfume. It's not perfume, y'all. This is pepper spray, but I'm just using this box as an example. You know, oh my gosh, you wow, thank you so much. And because she, you know, she had that excitement, he thought that he was in love or what have you. But I watched that hope happen over the course of my life. So by the time I became a young woman, whenever I had a dude in my face talking like that, I literally didn't believe him. I didn't believe he was trying to deceive me, but I believed he himself was dealing with deception in most cases. You know, he was just, it's just a feeling. It'll go away. You know, it's like a sore on the arm. It'll go away at some point. You know, because I figured, hey, you're young. I listen to the older people, young guys. They think they love you, and then they're going to it's going to fade away. But I found in this day and age, this is something happened with people of all ages. A lot of people don't understand the concept of falling in love simply means to fall under the influence of words. That's all it is. It's to fall under the influence of words, whether the words come from your favorite R&B artist. It's all these thoughts that you got going on in your mind. You seduce yourself. You come under the influence of that. The imaginations of him touching your hand, the imaginations of him kissing you softly. Maybe you cross that line and kiss him. It's the thoughts of that all over again. That's what brings you under the influence. This is important for this particular lesson because marine spirits bring you under the influence, especially the Delilah spirit. They bring you under the influence. And a lot of times people don't realize that once they bring you under the influence, you start getting high off your own stash. And what that means is now that man no longer has to say sweet nothings in your ear. You tell yourself everything. Now you lay around and you start thinking about him all the time. You start thinking about what type of man he's going to be. You think about when he kissed you, when you think about what it's going to be like to be with him. And the guy's thinking like that as well. So now you're just doing that to yourself. And to aid you in that, you put on your favorite R&B artist, and then you just lay there and you get lost in those thoughts, right? And I tell you, and I'm going to talk about it because the prophet, Delilah, is one of your greatest enemies. But when you're dealing with a prophet or a prophetic person, the Delilah spirit a lot of times will bring you under the influence because prophets and prophetic people are super sensitive. Prophets and prophetic people are super sensitive, incredibly sensitive. God made you that way so that you can sense his presence. And because of that, Satan weaponized the Delilah spirit because the Delilah spirit specializes in sensuality. They specialize in sensuality. You start thinking about sensuality, you're dealing with the five senses. What is it? Taste, touch, smell, hear, and see, sight. They specialize in sensuality. So when you're dealing with the Delilah spirit, most of the time they're going to try to engage your senses. And when you're a prophet or prophetic person, that typically does work. Let me see. All right. And one, just to kind of give you some insight into marine spirits, let's say Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea, having seven heads. And this is Apostle John giving his account. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having seven heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. Where did he come out? And I stood upon I'm back. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Now we go to Revelation 17:1, and we're talking about the spirits of the seas. We're talking about another word for marine spirits or water spirits, and they're common. They're common in a lot of areas where there's witchcraft, which is actually one of my notes. But I'm known for jumping ahead of myself. The woman in the beast, Romans 17:1, and there came one of the seven angels, which has seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication, brought under the influence, made drunk. So that's Revelations 17:1. This is characteristics of the Delilah spirit. So I'm going to give you some facts, and I don't think we're going to be on here really long tonight. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to give you some facts about this particular spirit. First, I'm going to give you some facts about marine spirits, and I'm going to give you some facts about Delilah, and we'll see where we go from there. Number one, facts. Delilah's love prophets and prophetic people. Delilah's spirit loves prophets and prophetic people. Um, and that's because again they specialize in sensuality. Now you know Samson of the Bible, he was a judge. Samson was the strongest man of the Bible in flesh, but the weakest as it relates to the spirit. His flesh was strong, but his flesh was strong, right? He could beat up just about everybody, beat up a lion, killed a lion, he killed a bunch of Philistines and what have you. This man was skilled in the arts of natural warfare, but he sucked as it related to spiritual warfare. But he was a strong man. And I tell people this all the time, and I think men and women need to hear this, especially men. When Satan wants to bring you down to the dudes, all he has to do is put on high heels. When Satan wants to bring you down, all he has to do is put on high heels, because more men have been brought down by the Delilah spirit and by the Jezebel spirit than anything. Satan doesn't have to take you into a world war. If he wants to bring you down, all he has to do is use women. All he has to do is use women. All he has to do is take you around a woman who has a marine spirit, a spirit of seduction, and that is usually enough to bring a lot of men down. Because people who have Delilah spirits, and they can be in men and women. Let me say that. There are men out there. You go to TikTok, you will find a lot of Delilahs licking their lips, oiled up, tattoos all over their chest. And you'll find a lot of thirsty women in their comment section. You'll find a lot of thirsty women going throughout their page and, just lusting after them. Because the thing about when you're dealing with those type of people or people who have a Delilah spirit, is the imagination is what ensnares you the most. The imagination. Their objective is to bring you into the realm of fantasy and allow your imagination to do the worst thing to you, because your heart is deceptive and it's wicked. This is what the Bible says. Your heart is deceptive and wicked. Who can know it? And most people are addicted to feelings. And so a lot of times, if you start fantasizing about a guy, you'll notice that these feelings come over you and you're going to like that feeling. So consequently, you'll go back into that thought again. You'll go back and then you'll keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, which is why the enemy has all these thirst traps all over the place. But Delilah's love prophets and prophetic people because of your sensitivity, because of your sensitivity. Number two, unlike Jezebel, aka the narcissist, the Delilah spirit uses seduction to ensnare prophetic people. Again, they use sensuality, they use seduction to ensnare you. They always come after one of your senses, your sight, which means that they will adorn themselves in a way that makes it hard. And sometimes they'll put their tickle bitties on display. And then sometimes they'll sit up there and they'll put on their favorite lip gloss. If they got voluptuous lips, if they got bedroom eyes, they will stare at you or what have you. And as a woman, we can see that when a woman is bringing to the guys, we can see when a woman is bringing you under a spell. We can also see when dudes are doing that. That's the reason why if a guy is flirting, let's say if a guy is flirting with me as a female, and I see him talking to another woman, I don't have to hear what he's saying. I can look at how he's looking at her and know, you're a thought. You're not a good guy. You're not somebody looking for a wife. You're a guy who thrives on attention because you didn't get it as a child. So because you didn't get it as a child, you thrive on attention. And it's from there, I'm not going to give you my attention, right? But unlike Jezebel, aka the narcissist, the Delilah spirit uses seduction to ensnare prophetic people. Number three, the Delilah spirit is a marine spirit. That's obvious. It is one of the marine spirits, one of the many marine spirits. So I'm not going to stay there. Number four, marine spirits are usually very common in areas surrounded by water. They're very common. Marine spirits are common in islands. They're common like Haiti. They thrive there. As a matter of fact, if you go to a lot of those areas, they will tell you about even mermaid sightings, which is one of the marine spirits. Mermaid spirits are also known as siren spirits, but they will tell you about mermaid sightings, or what have you. If you go to a lot of places in Africa, not just Africa and Hawaii, but a lot of Caribbean areas, but any place where you find there's a lot of water, typically you're going to find marine spirits. And usually closest to the water, you will see, for example, there are a lot of divorces, women that can't remain married, barrenness, miscarriage, a lot of dominance, whereas the woman is dominating her household, or they can't get married because they happen to be dominant or what have you. If you start coming out, you'll start meeting people. Let's say, for example, in parts of Africa, they'll tell you the men. I remember this lady, and of course, I was married to a guy from Africa, and I was telling this lady, and I was in Germany at the time. I was telling this lady that we become friends, and she was also from his country, from Cameroon. And I was telling her about my ex's sister, how aggressive she was. We didn't get along because she kept trying to control me. I don't do control, all that stuff. And she was like, yeah, the women from that village are known for that. As a matter of fact, the men in her village, they won't marry women from that village. The women from that village, they'll give them children, they'll get them pregnant, all that, but they won't marry them. So she said, because they're known to be aggressive, they're known to beat their husbands, they're known for that. So the men in that village actually go to other villages to get married. And the same thing with people from other villages would avoid women from that village. Obviously, she wasn't from their particular village, but she was telling me about it. But that is an example of marine spirits. Marine spirits, you'll find there's a lot of aggression, divorce, miscarriage, a lot of fatherlessness as it relates to children. Those are signs of marine spirits. Where was I? Okay, number 5. Marine spirits are associated with lust, seduction, perversion, of course, that's sexual sin, divorce, barrenness, violence, miscarriages, and the nine. Now, one of the things I tell people, if you see a history of miscarriages, that's typically going to be a spirit spouse, which is a marine spirit within itself. So anytime I see, like, if a woman is constantly having miscarriages, understand that those spirits are common, that you have no reason to be ashamed. I got to put that out there, because a lot of people, whenever they start dealing with marine spirits, they hide in shame or what have you. They hide in shame, and they will constantly keep going through the same stuff. Marine, like when you're dealing with a spirit spouse is jealous, right? Spirit spouse doesn't want you to be married to nobody because they consider you to be their spouse. So they will fight against your marriage. Typically, when a woman has a spirit spouse, one of the things that will happen to her, she may not like sex. She can be married, but she don't want her husband to touch her because she has a spirit spouse. That spirit spouse will make her despise her husband, and if she does get pregnant, the spirit spouse will typically try to end her pregnancy in miscarriage. And her miscarriages a lot of times may be preceded by dreams of having sex. Why am I telling you this? Come get your deliverance. I'm telling you this because that's not normal, even though it's common. And a lot of times, like I said, we have a tendency to suffer in shame. And one of the things, now let me say this, there are 2 spirits that a lot of people are unaware of that are spirits. Now, they could be feelings as well, but there's a spirit by the name of guilt. There's a spirit by the name of shame. And those two particular spirits like to make sure you don't get deliverance. So if you're sitting in the audience at church and you need deliverance, and the pastor calls out and say, hey, you want to rededicate your life, if you need prayer for anything, and you just sitting there clammed up because those spirits are talking to you in that moment. They're talking you to, and people gonna look at you. They're gonna talk about you. That girl over there, she don't like you. You become so people focused. You become so. I don't want them to think. I don't want this. And God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Why am I saying that? Because then you'll wait for the pastor to come off the stage, and when they trying to move out through the audience, you try to catch them out in the hallway. Excuse me. Can you pray for me? Chances are you won't get free, because you're moving in guilt and shame. You're moving in pride instead of sitting there saying, God, get the glory out of me. You know what? I don't care what these people say. What can they do to me? Let me go up to this altar. Why am I telling you that? Because a lot of you, what happens is, don't worry if that's a struggle. The reason I'm teaching on that, so it won't be a struggle anymore. One of the things that you have to do in that moment is literally ignore the voice. As a matter of fact, don't dwell on it, because you're meditating on it. You start thinking about it. One thing you have to learn to do, as soon as the pastor made the call, just jump out of your seat. Like, you have to move faster than that voice. Jump out of your seat, get up and go straight onto the altar. Jump out of your seat, go straight onto the altar, so that you can get your freedom, because God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Again, marine spirits are associated with lust, seduction, perversion, divorce, barrenness, violence, and miscarriage. If you find that you're dealing with miscarriage, now ladies, make sure you're married. You shouldn't be having sex outside of marriage. Can't tell you that enough. Don't be trying to go get deliverance just so you can have a baby with somebody that you're not married to, because at the end of the day, you're gonna pick that spirit back up and it'll be 7 times worse, because they come in through fornication. That is one of their routes to coming in. So you don't want to, or they come in through sexual sin. So you don't want to go back out there and pick it back up or what have you. But they are known for causing miscarriages. And like I said, those miscarriages are typically preceded by dreams of somebody having sex with you. It can be a familiar face, which represents a familiar spirit, or it can be a faceless person. It can be a faceless person. Number 6, spirit spouses, Leviathan, Jezebel. Spirit spouses include, well, these are examples of marine spirits. Don't like the way I wrote this down. Spirit spouses, Leviathan, Jezebel, mermaid, octopus, which is mind control, and examples of water spirits are examples of water spirits. Spirit spouses, Leviathan, Jezebel, mermaid, octopus are examples of water spirits. Now there are more on the, there are more than that, but these are examples of marine spirits. Spirit spouses are the ones that marry people. You have dreams of somebody marrying you. You have dreams of a faceless man or a faceless woman marrying you. For the guys, you have wet dreams. For the guys, and it was normalized with men because you were taught that puberty meant that you were gonna have wet dreams or what have you. But that is not a normal thing. That is a spirit spouse. Leviathan is a demon associated with pride. And I always tell people Leviathan is or pride is one of the guarding spirits. It is an indicator that there are other spirits. I've never come in contact with Leviathan without coming in contact with a spirit that is guarding. So Leviathan, the Bible calls the king of the proud. The king of the proud. You have a Leviathan spirit. That is an indicator that 9 times out of 10, Jezebel is back there. You may need deliverance from Jezebel. Jezebel is the spirit behind control and witchcraft and idolatry. Mermaid spirits. Mermaid spirits are typically associated with seduction, manipulation, the bringing down of men through seduction. They're also associated with witchcraft covenants and contracts. Octopus is mind control, and these are all examples of marine spirits. These are all examples of marine spirits. Yes, octopus is what they call mind control. It's also known as the octopus spirit. And whenever you come in contact with a mind control spirit, it's usually a person has come out of a false religion, a person who has a bunch of crazy thoughts where they start talking about, people following them and all that other stuff. You're usually dealing with somebody who has a mind control. They've been under some type of control. So typically that's going to be mind control. Number 7, water spirits are often found in people and areas where there is a great deal of witchcraft and pagan practices. When I say they're found in people, I'm talking about families. If there's a lot of witchcraft in the family, if there's a history of witchcraft in the family, or when you go to an area where there's a lot of witchcraft and pagan practices, you will see water spirits. It is what it is. They will be there. Number 8, water spirits enter in through witchcraft covenants, sex association, generational curses, and rebellion. They can even come in through pornography. They often come in through pornography. Let me say that. They often come in through pornography. People who get caught up in pornography will have marine spirits in them. Somebody who is in witchcraft, you burn in sage and all that other stuff, you will have a spirit spouse. It is almost a guarantee. If a person comes to me needing deliverance and they say, I played with crystals, I did this and I did that, I already know one of the spirits I'm going to have to come against is going to be the spirit spouse, because he marries you through that, because you're going into agreement. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Amos 3:3. When you start getting into that kind of stuff, you will notice that you're going to start having dreams of somebody having sex with you. You couldn't even tell me that I'm lying. You will notice that you have dreams of somebody having sex with you, dreams of you getting married, dreams of somebody giving you expensive, lavish gifts. I had somebody on TikTok one day to post up about she had a dream and she didn't know, but she was talking about, she dreamt about her husband. And, she said, because she was commenting on one of my videos, and she was like, he showed me this beautiful house and this. And I was like, girl, be careful. That sounds like a spirit spouse. A spiritual spouse is one of the many water spirits. Water spirit is just a classification. It's one of the many water spirits. I'll give you an example of another where you see water spirits legion. So you had the man, and this was, I think it was called Gadareans, the place. Here it is, Jesus. They come on, they going, and they're on this ship going over there, and then there's this big old storm. Jesus is asleep in the bow of the ship. That was warfare. That's why Jesus rebuked the storm, right? That's why he rebuked the storm and the storm silenced, because that was warfare. And typically, any person is in the ministry of deliverance know if they're going to a nation or what have you, they're going to a place to do deliverance. There's usually some form of warfare, especially if you're going to a place like Haiti, you're going to a place where there's a lot of marine spirits and you're about to go over there and start doing deliverance. There's typically going to be some element to warfare. So they have to kind of prepare themselves for that. But then when you get over there, they find Jesus finds this man, and he is, he's been bound up. He's what, pretty much naked. He's got all these gashes or what have you, been cutting himself with stones or what have you, and he runs up to Jesus. Now there are two accounts of that story. Matthew and Mark give two different accounts. One of them gives an account of one guy, another one gives an account of two guys, but it always goes back towards this one guy. But Jesus, starts talking to the spirits in that man, and he said, "What are your name?" They say, "Legion, for we are many." That was dwelling near the water. So typically in areas where there's a lot of water, you're going to see people incredibly demonized. You're going to see people who are incredibly demonized. Matter of fact, when you go to places like a lot of places in Africa, a lot of countries in Africa, especially the parts that are surrounded by water, many times they are afraid of the water. They're afraid of bathing in the water, or they may bathe near the edge. They have certain, because they say people come up missing. They said, they have a lot of mermaid sightings and stuff like that. A lot of witchcraft happens in the water. A lot of witches go to the water. A lot of witches use water for witchcraft. All right. Okay, that was number 8. That water spirits enter in through witchcraft, covenant, sex. They enter in through sex. I'm gonna say that again. They enter in through sex. Yes, Florida has a lot of spirit spouses. I lived there for 5 years. They have a lot of marine spirits. I lived there for 5 years, and I saw stuff I ain't never seen before in my life. One of the things I seen 2 times in me living there was driving down a highway, women leaning out the car, like sticking out the window. They get to a red light and they'll come out the window and open their bra and give everybody a show. That was culture shock for me, like no other. Like, what? Then one particular time while we were in Florida, I was married at the time, middle of the night, PMS, ex my ex. I was like, I want snacks. It's like 12 a.m. And we had a gas station that was right up the street from us. I was like, I want snacks, and I wouldn't let it go. I was like, please, I need snacks. And he was like, all right, come on. So we went over to this gas station. See these 2 girls come in, one girl black, one girl white. They come in and they're wearing these long trench coats, which is weird because Florida's always hot. They come in and you're right, Louisiana is full of marine spirits, full of it. It's full of witchcraft. You will find those areas, you will find a lot of witchcraft and stuff like that. But we go there, and of course, I'm shopping, he's shopping, I'm getting my snacks. He goes to another aisle and he comes back and he comes to the register. And I saw the 2 girls when they walked in. I thought it was strange they were wearing trench coats. I kind of figured that they were probably coming to steal or something. I just didn't think too much of it. But he comes to the register. And I knew what he said. He said, "Baby." And I started ignoring him. I said, "Wait, baby," because I already knew what he was about to say. I knew it was going to be something about it, because at that time he wasn't too acclimated to American culture. So he didn't know that you don't say something about a person while they're standing there. He didn't understand that. So anytime he walked up to me in the store and he said, "Baby," I would say, "Wait." I would always say, "Wait." Like, it ain't worth the fight. Wait, 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 wait. And he was like, "Baby." And the girls, they went to look, and he said, you see that the girls, they flash me. They open their coat. They're not wearing they're not wearing anything. They show me their underwear. They had on a bra and panties from what he said, but they flashed him when he looked at them, or what have you. And I was like, "Welcome to America." But water spirits enter in through witchcraft, covenant, sex, association. They come in through sex. So for those of you who are out there busting it open, you can pick up unclean spirits through sexual activity. Right? They are highly, they're in California like it ain't nothing. But yeah, they're in those areas, what have you. And whatever you see water spirits, you will see a whole lot of vanity. You'll see a whole lot of vanity. There will be a what is the word I want to say? a hatred of traditionalism, like traditional marriages and stuff like that. They will be completely against that. There will be a lot of promiscuity, sexual immorality, all of that stuff. You'll find witchcraft is very common. You will notice that those are areas where there's a lot of water and there's going to be a lot of marine spirits. Now, in dry areas, you will find marine spirits as well, but not as common. So, for example, Afghanistan, you're good. They're there, right? Desert areas, they're there, but you won't find them as frequent as you find in other areas. All right, where was I? Number 9, water spirits can be attached to items dedicated to the devil or demons. Water spirits can be attached to items. They can be attached to. Now, it doesn't mean they can be in, but they can be attached to items. People, they will speak curses over items and give them to you, which is why. And I'm gonna make somebody feel a little bit weird, and I apologize. This is why I don't buy thrift stuff. I just don't. I don't buy stuff from thrift stores. I don't take hand-me-downs. I just don't. I just don't. But yes, yeah, areas where there's water, lakes, oceans, rivers, it doesn't matter. Any body of water, you will find a lot of marine spirits. But water spirits can be attached to items dedicated to the devil or demons. You'll find that a lot of people who practice witchcraft, for example, they'll give items like baby showers. They'll give items that are dedicated. I remember seeing this lady on TikTok, and she said that she was a prophet at her church or what have you. But she said that they were doing bags for kids. I don't remember what it was. I don't know what these bags are for, but they had another lady that was from another church that came in and was helping with the bags. And she said the Lord woke her up in the middle of the night and told her that the lady had been doing witchcraft on the bags or something like that. She did something with the bags. So she said she got up and she went to the church, and she said they were still there. The pastor and some other people were still there. They were doing the bags and stuff. And she said the Lord told her to do the witch. And she said there's going to be a mark, a sign on the bags. The lady had put a mark on them. And she said they went looking and they found the bags had markings on them and stuff like that. And she said the lady was a part of another church on a ministry team, the whole nine. But she was up there doing witchcraft. But that's what witches do. Witches go into churches and they will disguise themselves. They'll try to find some type of way to get into a leadership role, because they want to have a way to legalize, or not necessarily legalize their witchcraft, but to get your trust, so that they can perform witchcraft easily. But they can be attached to items. They can be attached to items. And I always get this question, but can I dedicate it? Can I pray over it? I'm not going to tell you that you can't, but what I will tell you, I would just much rather throw it out. I don't think I like any item that much to keep it. You can't give me a shirt and I'm like, I'm just gonna pray over it. No, I'm gonna burn that joker. I'm gonna get rid of that joker. Number 10, last one for this, and we're gonna start talking about Delilah. The body is 6% water, making it the perfect environment for marine spirits. The body is 60. Not I said 6, but it's 60% water, making it the perfect environment for marine spirits. Want to give you a broad understanding or just a basic understanding of marine spirits. There are different classifications of spirits. So marine spirits is just a classification, and they happen to be very common. They're common in the United States of America. Whenever you come into areas where there is extreme poverty, you will find a great deal of marine spirits. If you go to a trailer park or you go to a ghetto, you will find a great deal of marine spirits. You will find a lot of women having children outside of marriage. You will find a lot of crime because they're associated with violence. You will find a lot of seduction. You will find witchcraft. You will find a lot of things happening in those areas because of marine spirits. Marine spirits, well, Google, I mean, there are different sources. Some sources say 60% water. Some sources say 75% water. Some sources say 70% water. So, but that's the thing. Anytime you go into an area where there is, this is why I try to tell y'all, and I can't emphasize this enough, come out of victimhood. Come out of victimhood, because the victimhood mentality typically leads to witchcraft. The victimhood mentality typically leads to witchcraft. All right. So let's talk about the Delilah spirit, which is one of the marine spirits. So let's talk about the Delilah spirit. I told you the Jezebel spirit, aka the narcissist, is affiliated with the prophet or the prophetic person. Jezebel has always hated God's prophets or God's prophetic people. The Jezebel spirit has always hated. And there, of course, there is the covert narcissist and the overt narcissist. The covert narcissist is more undercover. They typically are relatively docile, or they're not that loud. They're not going to be like, they're not going to use assertive or dominant control. Instead, they will use passivity, or they'll use um crying to get what they want. A good example is the concept of some Karens, not all, because some Karens come out, they're all aggressive and dominant or what have you. And then as soon as they realize they're not getting their way, when the cops show up, they begin to have a watershed of emotions. That is typically going unclean spirit. Remember, the war is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of this dark world of spiritual wickedness in high places. So when it comes down to it, there is Jezebel, which is the narcissist. There's a covert and there's an overt. And if you're a prophet or a prophetic person, 9 times out of 10, you have dealt with them both. You have dealt with them both. 9 times out of 10, you have run to the covert to talk about the overt. I don't know. She just keeps trying to control me, or he's just really controlling. And you're telling that to the covert, and they're like, yeah, I'm sorry. They try to control me as well. And I just tired of it. It's okay. And they'll manipulate you. What happened? And then you think they're safe because they're not dominantly controlling, but you find it where you're walking on eggshells with them. That is usually a sign of covert control. Covert control. You're afraid to correct them. You're afraid to tell them the truth. You're afraid. You're walking on eggshells as it relates to them. You have to let them do what they want to do. All right, so let's talk about the spirit of Delilah. Again, Samson in the Bible, he was a judge, but he was one of the strongest men physically, even though he was weak. He was weak physically. And one thing you'll notice about Delilah's is that they typically like to go after people who are high ranking. They like to go after people who are high ranking, people who are in great positions of authority. Think Bathsheba. Now, we can't say that Bathsheba deliberately seduced David, but conveniently, he's the king, and she has a tub on her roof, and she starts bathing on her roof or what have you. And that's what they do whenever you're dealing with somebody who has a Delilah spirit. Delilahs like to go after people who are in positions of authority, positions of power, or people that they see on their way up. They like to catch you when they see that you're going to make something of yourself. That's the difference between Jezebel and Delilah. Jezebel is going to go after pretty much anybody. They're going to try to control any and everybody. But Jezebel will typically, when you're dealing with a narcissist or you're dealing with Jezebel, Jezebel will typically turn you into their Ahab or their eunuch. Typically, you'll be their Ahab if you have authority that they can rob you of. If you're a eunuch, basically, they'll turn you into a eunuch, meaning a flying monkey, somebody that does their bidding, somebody that does what they want you to do. That's what you can still be in a relationship with them, but whenever you're their eunuch, they will constantly castrate you. So if a man has a Jezebel spirit and he gets in a relationship with a woman, if he's a narcissist, what he would do, he would dominate and control her. He will dominate and control her. He will seduce her. He will gaslight her. He'll play mind games with her or what have you. So let's talk about Delilah. Delilah, on the other hand, is going to be seductive. Delilah, on the other hand, is going to be that woman or that man, because it can be that spirit can be in a woman or a man, and they're pretty much kind of looking at something that you have. They're looking at something that they want from you, some benefit they want to extract from you, whether it is driving your car or they want to be a part of your life. Delilahs typically specialize in sensuality, and many Delilahs are attractive. Not all of them, but many Delilahs are attractive. Many Delilahs are attractive. And this is why I tell people Satan loves to use demonized people, because to Satan, people are objects. To Satan, people are outfits. So basically, an attractive person is one of his favorite outfits. Does that make sense? An attractive person is one of his favorite outfits. An attractive person, the objective of Satan is to get an attractive person, because attractive people have a power within themselves. When they go out, people are attracted to them because of their beauty. Now, beauty within itself can be an anointing. God can use beauty. Look at Esther, right? Her anointing was in her beauty, and it was also in her humility. So the enemy likes to take that anointing, he likes to take that and to pervert it and to use that power for his own kingdom. So a woman has big old beautiful puppy dog eyes, right? And you'll notice that whenever she wants to seduce a man, whenever she wants to manipulate man, she will use her eyes. I've seen women do that, right? Because I came out of that world. So I've seen people do that, and I know when they're doing it because they'll look at a man a certain way. They'll keep talking to him, and they'll just keep looking at a man a certain way. This is why the Bible said, "Don't let her ensnare you with her eyelids." Or she will start using a woman who has voluptuous lips. She will use her lips. So while a man is talking to her, she'll be looking him in the eyes and she'll keep biting her lips. She'll keep doing things because right there in that moment, she's trying to create a moment. She's trying to create a memory. She's trying to create something that he's not going to be able to get out of his mind. If a woman has a voluptuous butt, she'll try to place emphasis on her behind. She'll try to find some type of way to get that man to look at her butt. She'll try to find some type of way. You'll see women on social media, for example, and what they have a tendency to do is they'll sit back and they'll be on social media and they'll say something, especially let's say if they're in ministry or what have you, but they're bound by the Delilah spirit and they want men to lust after them. They want to ensnare you because people of a Delilah spirit, they not only want to ensnare men, but get this, they are usually really good at, they put out thirst traps and then they'll accuse you. Did you catch that? They put out thirst traps and then they'll accuse you. So they'll post up a status saying something to the effects of, I was walking in the store today and this little boy was walking behind me and I didn't know why. I kept looking for him and I couldn't find him. And the daddy came and got him, and the daddy was like, he just loved big butt women. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I left there and I was in a parking lot. And while I was in a parking lot, this man comes walking up to me and he was like, be careful with all that. Oh, what have you? That woman, that story is not necessary. The reason she's telling that story is because she knows the men on social media can't see her. So what she's doing is trying to create a snapshot in their mind. She's trying to let them know that she's curvaceous. That is a Delilah spirit. That is a Delilah spirit. And a lot of times what they'll do, they'll try to be slick. They'll try to take a pose, but they'll try to turn to the side or what have you. They're trying to seduce men. So they'll go on social media, they'll post stuff up. And then they'll be the first ones that post us. Y'all married men, stay out of my inbox. Y'all married men, stay out of my inbox. Because they're always trying to do something to capture men. But then as soon as the men come after them, they will humiliate them. Especially if you happen to be a Christian man, if you happen to be you have a title or what have you, or if you feel like you're in power, or if you're in some type of power, they are always looking to accuse and to humiliate. That is Delilah. That is Delilah. Now Jezebel does that as well. Jezebel's typically specialize in, I will expose you or what have you. But Delilah's, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll use their flesh to bring a man or to bring a wonder under subjection. They'll use their flesh, right, to get your attention. And then if they happen to not like you or they feel there's some benefit in exposing you, they will expose you. They will expose you. Okay. Delilah's number one, seduce prophets. They seduce prophets or prophetic people. Give me 5 facts about Delilah's. They like to seduce prophets and prophetic people. Again, they are marine spirits and they specialize in seduction. They specialize in the use of the flesh. So when it comes down to it, if a woman has incredible voluptuous breasts, a lot of time marine spirits will put powers. They'll have powers in their breasts, meaning they will ensnare you. If you look at their breasts, you're ensnared. They will ensnare you. So they'll wear shirts where they'll wear push-up bras. They'll wear shirts where their breasts are out. When they're talking to you, they'll do things to bring attention to their breasts. Sometimes they have powers in their eyes. Sometimes they have powers again in their lips or what have you. Some of them, they're very sensual with their touch. They're strategic in knowing how to touch you and when to touch you or what have you. But they like to seduce prophets and prophetic people. Remember, prophets and prophetic people are made by God to be super sensitive. And so one thing about prophets and prophetic people is that a lot of times when you're immature or when you're still dealing with trauma, you love the touch of a woman or a man. You love sensuality. You love sensuality, and Satan knows that. And so consequently, matter of fact, I would dare to say this. I believe that Satan not only knows that, but I believe that's one of the ways that he can test to see if you're a prophet or a prophetic person. Just like God told us to test the spirits, demons test spirits as well. But by looking at your sensitivity, looking at your level of sensitivity tells whether or not you're a prophet or a prophetic person. A prophet or prophetic person, they're easily brought under the influence by a person who's saying, I can't stop thinking about you. You're probably a prophetic person. You probably watch all these movies, and you watch Shamar Moore on Diary of a Mad Black Woman. He said, I'm in love with you. I can't stop thinking about you. And you got sucked into the screen. You probably started crying. You probably started thinking about an ex of yours or what have you. Or you put on some clothes, you got dressed, and you decided to go outside hoping that you meet your own version of Shamar Moore. But prophets and prophetic people are usually easily seduced, especially in their immaturity, when they're in the beginning stages of their walks, especially many of them who grew up in households where they dealt with rejection. Prophets and prophetic people, they can fall in love for somebody hugging them. And when I say fall in love, again, that means to come under the influence. To come under the influence. Matter of fact, I would dare to say this. When it comes to prophets and prophetic people, a lot of times I don't bother to try to, I'll tell them you need to run whenever they find themselves in a relationship with the wrong person, but I don't push the matter. I don't push them. A lot of times I don't say anything, but I don't push the matter because most of the times they will demonize you and use you as their love story villain. Okay, y'all can tell me if I'm wrong. Sister Farrah, you're awesome. God bless you, sis. Thank you. Thank you. But they will use you as their love story villain, because every love story has to have a Cruella, has to have a villain in there. And a lot of times when you're dealing with a prophet or prophetic person, if you come up to them and you tell them, hey, that woman that you're with or that man that you're with, that ain't for you. You need to pray, you need to fast, what have you. They will use you as their villain for their story. And what I mean by they'll use you as their villain, typically what they'll do is they'll go back and tell the person what you said. And they'll say, oh, she told me that I shouldn't be with you, but I just think, she doesn't understand you like I understand you. And a lot of people, there are so many people that try to speak against us because they feel like that is the glue for their love story. They think that's what's going to heighten their love story. They typically deal with fantasy. So in their mind, in their imagination, at some point they're going to get married, have babies with these people, and then they're going to get on a microphone where they're in front of people and say, you see that guy right there? People told me not to be with him. People spoke against our relationship. And that's why they're drawn to people who have those testimonies. People spoke against our relationship. But how long are we together, baby? Okay, we're 18 years together. And we've never had any problems. I thank God I didn't listen. Wow, there are stories like that where people were wrong. But prophets and prophetic people, a lot of times they want to believe that Delilah is right for them. If you go back to the story of Samson, Samson's parents did not want him to marry the first woman because you remember there was a woman before Delilah. We get so caught up in Delilah, we forget that Samson has been a victim of that many times. There was another woman. There was actually 3 women that we found affiliated with Samson. The woman that he wanted to marry, his parents said, can you not find an Israelite woman? But he was just determined, but the Bible said it was from the Lord. So he gets with this woman. She, the Philistines come and they get her. They say, hey, listen, he gave us a riddle. Tell us what the riddle means. Give us the answer. However, she tells him, and then he puts her away. Where he puts her, gets rid of her for a minute. Then when he comes back, he finds out her father married off to somebody else. And so he gets mad and he ties some foxes' tails together and all that. And they're wondering who upset this man. Who upset? And they found out what happened and they killed the father, the daughter. They the Philistines come and what happened. Then there was a prostitute. The Bible says he went into a prostitute. Prophets and prophetic people typically will find themselves in a lot of sexual immorality. And I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm saying that that's what ensnares. That's what keeps you from walking in your office. That's what keeps you from being the person that God called you to be. A lot of times, your relationship, somebody write this down. For a prophet or a prophetic person, a lot of times your relationship is your attempt to escape your assignment. Your relationship, and that's the reason why you get swallowed up by a great fish. It's another marine spirit. I'm sorry to tell you, what swallowed Jonah was a marine spirit. I'm sorry. It's a marine spirit. You get swallowed up by Jezebel. You get swallowed out by something. You get overcome because you had an assignment. And instead of you taking your assignment, you decided to hide out in a relationship most relationships for prophets and prophetic people are hiding places. Most relationships for prophets and prophetic people are hiding places. Is your attempt to have a normal life? Is your attempt to have the life that you want instead of saying yes? Because the life of the prophet or the prophetic person is a life of sacrifice, meaning you don't get what you want. You don't get the life that you want. You think about what God said to Abram, who became Abraham. Go to a place that I'm going to show you. Meaning he didn't even tell him where he was taking him. He said, go where I'm going to show you. That means you got to walk by faith and not by sight. If I tell you to turn left, you better turn left. If I tell you to turn right, you better turn right. Walk away from your family. Walk away. And that's the life of a prophet or prophetic person who is used by God. The majority of prophets and prophetic people find themselves in the custody of Jezebel or in the custody of Delilah, being swallowed up simply because they don't want to be prophets or prophetic people, because they want to have a normal life. Many prophets and prophetic people, they're so ensnared by spirituality. And I said ensnared, meaning they get swallowed up by their assignment. They're so ensnared by spirituality that they don't want to have anything to do with God's version of spirituality, which is holiness. They don't want that, because then that means that they have to lose control. Instead, they go into witchcraft. There are so many witches that are prophets and prophetic people who have rejected God, and consequently, they're full of demons. They're being used by the enemy because they rejected the Most High God. They've chosen to be instruments for the enemy rather than being instruments for God. But they like to seduce prophets. Delilahs like to seduce prophets and prophetic people. They also like to seduce. When I say prophetic people, don't think outside of the fivefold. They like to seduce apostles. They like to seduce prophets. They like to seduce evangelists, teachers, and pastors. They like to seduce people even outside of that fold. They like to seduce people who are prophetic. All right. Delilah's number 2. This may shock you. South Korea, praise God. Welcome, sis. Delilah's are oftentimes prophetic. This is why they are so good or so apt. They are so skilled at ensnaring prophets and prophetic people. Y'all, can I tell y'all something? I'm going to tell you a moment here. I'm supposed to be looking at the camera. Why am I looking at the water bottle thinking it's a camera? I'm back. All right. But they are often prophets or prophetic people. People of the Delilah spirit are often very sensual, and that's the reason why they understand sensuality. But again, they have submitted themselves to the enemy, right? They're witches, but many of them have not. Many of them have gone into witchcraft, and then there are some of them that have never acknowledged witchcraft, not realizing that seduction within itself is witchcraft. Not realizing that seduction within itself is witchcraft, because seduction or to seduce means to lead astray. So they use their body, they use their words to get what they want. But they are often prophets and prophetic people, which is why they are so skilled at getting you. That's why they're so skilled at getting in your drawers. This is why many of you have kids with the Delilah spirit. You have kids with Jezebel. You have kids with Delilah. You got kids with them, because when they come into your life, one of the things I found about people who have this particular spirit is that they often believe what they're saying. And this is why I try to help a lot of people who are bitter towards men or bitter towards women to come to understand that some of the people who stood in front of you and told you they were in love with you, they were telling you what they truly were feeling in that moment. They just sobered up. They were under the influence of words. They were under the influence of thoughts, imagination. This is why the Bible says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. They were under the influence of all of those things. But reality has a way of sobering us up, right? Reality has a way of sobering us up, which is why, like I said, when I was young, I didn't always fall into the trap of a man genuinely, because I knew he was being real in that moment. When he's sitting there holding my hand, talking about, I want to be with you, he was being real in that moment. That's what he felt. But it's a feeling. And those things are fleeting. It's just a feeling. He's under the influence of maybe something he thought, because it don't always have to be something I said. It can be just his thing. Whenever he gets into relationships, there are people out here who are addicted to oxytocin. I would dare to say the majority of Americans are. They are addicted to oxytocin. So they get into relationships because the beginning of relationships gives them that feeling. They love that feeling of getting to know somebody new, touching your hand, playing music in the background, slow dancing with you, kissing you ever so softly for the first time, going for long walks on the beach with you, making love in weird places. They love that feeling. And then if you add a little bit of people not accepting their relationship, it just makes it greater. It just makes it feel so much better, right? It makes them feel so much better while they're in a relationship with this person, and mommy is against it, daddy's against it, everybody's against their relationship. It just makes them feel like this is supposed to happen. I got to defend us. It makes them go under the spell so much greater. It makes them go under the spell, but they are often prophetic. And like I said, many times they genuinely believe what they're saying to you. They believe they love you. They believe they're in love with you. They believe that they're going to spend the rest of their lives with you. They believe that in that moment. That's their intention. But they don't understand that reality will always come and slap you out of it. Reality will always come. A reality is an alarm. Typically, prophets and prophetic people fall out of love. Let me talk about the guys, and then I'm going to talk about the women. They fall out of love when you have their kid. Where the baby mamas at? Where y'all at? They sobered up, didn't they? Because once you had that kid, when you're dealing with somebody who is a Delilah spirit, they're not too excited about you giving your attention to the kid. Now the kid is stealing their attention from them. They left you, they asked you to have an abortion or what have you. They're not too excited about you having kids because in that moment, this is the most selfish thing you've ever held in your hand. This little thing that you're holding is more selfish and more narcissistic. Now, when I say narcissistic, I'm not saying the kid is demonized. I'm saying that this is flesh and it ain't been crucified. This is new flesh in the earth is fallen. Remember, humans are, it means humbled man. This is fallen flesh. This is innocence. This is a baby. This baby needs you. So when somebody needs you, they're completely selfish. Sister Kennedy, you're awesome. God bless you, sis. Thank you. But now this right here, you're feeding a selfish person. This little human is, this little person is getting your breast. This little person is getting your attention, and they're not getting it anymore. And so from there, a lot of times they'll create a problem because they'll use that as their exit to get out of the relationship with you because they want somebody who's going to give them attention. So consequently, typically what they'll do is they'll go get in a relationship with somebody else because Delilah's love the beginning of a relationship. They love the beginning of a relationship. This is why when you see them in the beginning, you see a woman and she has a man who has a Delilah spirit, you're like, oh, they're such a cute couple. In the beginning, it just looks beautiful because he's holding her hand, he's gripping her hand, he's calling her baby, he's doing all of that stuff in the beginning. First few months, maybe even the first year, it's beautiful in the beginning, but they're going to sober up. Hear me when I say this, they're going to sober up. They're going to be sobered up by reality. They're going to be sobered up by the truth. And once they're sobered up, Delilahs always feel like victims. They always feel like victims. They always feel like you're robbing them of this because hear me when I say this. They specialize in the spirit of seduction. Get my book, get my book, Devil Bait, High Heels and Spiritual Warfare. I talk about it. But when you're dealing with a remember Delilah in the Bible, her job was to find Samson's weakness. That was it. Her job was you can never keep the person that you seduce. Somebody need to write that down. You can never keep, if you're walking with the Delilah spirit, you can never keep the person that you seduce. You're nothing but bait. The bait don't get to keep the fish. You can keep them for a couple of years. You can have 1, 2, 3 kids with them, but they're going to sober up. And then the enemy has to take them deeper into witchcraft because the objective is to kill, steal, and destroy. It is Devil Bait, High Heels and Spiritual Warfare. You can find it on Amazon. Sister B posted the link to it. They will never allow you to keep what you catch. They'll allow you to keep it for so long. They're also, I don't know who needs to hear this. Delilah spirit is also associated with adultery. If a woman is going after a married man, you can bet you by golly, wow, she has a water spirit in her. You can bet you by golly, wow, she has a marine spirit. You can bet you by golly, wow. I'm telling you, if that's you, you need to come get deliverance. They don't get to keep, because her job is to bring you out of that relationship, is to destroy. Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy that covenant. Once she destroys that covenant, her job is done. She doesn't get to keep the guy. She can stay with him, maybe even marry him for a while, but Satan will always bring them apart, because Satan's objective is, if he's going after that guy, is to bring him deeper. So then he's going to fall in love with a different woman who's going to have an even greater spirit of witchcraft. And then next thing you know, he's ensnared by her for a couple of years, has a couple of kids. That's not going to work. Now he's getting bitter and angry. Then he's going to come in contact with another woman who has a greater or a higher ranking spirit. You remember the spirit, the Bible talks about the 7 spirits more wicked than itself. That means every time he gets delivered from one woman or woman, every time she gets delivered from one man, anytime they get delivered from one person, the next person is going to have demons that's going to be even more higher ranking than the demons they just got delivered from. Oh gosh. Anytime God frees you, delivers you, and you don't take the time to heal and to get free from idolatry, to repent, you don't take the time, the next time you come in contact with another person. Like I've looked at women and I've looked at men, and I'll see them go from one relationship to the other one. And I'll look and I'll say, she got a type. Same demon, different dude. I've seen that a lot with men. He got a type. Same demon, different girl. It's just a higher ranking spirit. It's just a higher ranking spirit. And when you're dealing with a higher ranking spirit, it's going to bring him even more under the influence, which is why he was able to dog this girl, but he's being dogged by that girl. Somebody can't nobody here tell me I'm lying. All of a sudden, he was a dog in that relationship. Now he's being dogged over here, and now he's over there being dogged. He can't walk away. The reason he can't walk away because that spirit in her outranks him. That spirit in him outranked the last girl. Okay? That spirit in him outranked the spirit that was in the last girl, but the spirit in this girl outranks him. And because the spirit in that girl outranks him, his demons are in submission. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. I ain't got a lot for y'all today. They seduce prophets. They're often prophetic. Again, Delilahs are often prophets or prophetic people who have decided to yield themselves to the enemy. And when they start yielding, and again, a lot of times they're beautiful. And they like to go after people that are ensnared by them. They like to go after people who are entranced by them. A Delilah will never give you attention if you don't give them attention. They're not interested in you. Delilah's, when I had that spirit, if he didn't look at me a certain way, I didn't pay him any attention. But that spirit actually gives women insight into how to get you guys. And the same thing with a guy. It tells them how to get you. But again, they specialize in sensuality. Sister Candace, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. When I had that spirit, I talk about that in my book, Devil Bait High Heels and Spiritual Warfare. I talk about my time when I was walking with that spirit. That spirit gives a woman insight into how to ensnare you. That spirit gives a woman insight, or it gives a man insight. So they are very, when you're dealing with a Delilah, they are very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Is it inept? I'm not sure, but skilled. They are very good at identifying in a crowd. They're very good at identifying the prophet or prophetic person, especially the one that they feel has a certain measure of rank. I can bring her under my control, or I can bring him under my control. I can have that person doing everything that I want. That person would be crazy about me. They be playing Jodeci, You Got Me Feeding. They'll be sitting up crying, rocking themselves to sleep at night. They'll go buy themselves a baby bottle and fill it with cow's milk and sit up in the bed, in the corner of their bed, in the corner, and cry and play music all night long and just be sitting up there talking about me. But they are often prophets and unprophetic people. Number 3, they are under the influence of thoughts, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. They don't cast down imagination. This is why I told you, don't give somebody your heart if they have trouble guarding their own. Don't give somebody your heart if they have trouble guarding their own. If they don't know how to guard their heart, don't give them access to your heart. Somebody who has a Delilah spirit will typically have a bunch of thoughts going on in their mind. They don't cast down those thoughts. They just let them play out. Ladies, you women are notorious for this. Women love to play with their imaginations. Love it. You come across that dude at your job, he looks at you, he winks, and he walks away. And then you take that thought home and then you animate it. In your head, you animate him. You imagine him taking you out on a date. You imagine him holding your hand. You imagine him kissing you. And the whole time, all of these feelings are being produced. This oxytocin, all of these things are, you're experiencing all of that. And the next thing you know, you go under the influence. You go into a one-sided soul tie with somebody who just wanted your attention. You go under a soul tie with a guy who's walking around winking at every female that he sees that is attracted to him. Because he has a Delilah spirit. He knows he's attractive. He knows he's attractive. So he does that right there to you. And you're like, and now you think that he thinks you're the one. He thinks I'm the one. He doesn't think that you're the one. He just does that with certain women. He does that with certain women. That spirit runs heavily in the men in my family. That spirit runs heavily in the men in my family because they were attractive and they knew how to go after women. And I'm gonna say this, and I pray that this doesn't make any of you feel bad. It doesn't put a turd on your self-esteem. But a lot of times they go after women. If they are a 10, they'll go after a woman that's considered a 4. Same thing with women. You know why? Because you'll be crazy about them because in your mind they're out of your league. Y'all don't want me to talk about it, do you? You want me to talk about it? They will go after a woman. And I know as I'm talking, some of you, maybe you have self-esteem issues, but you immediately got a picture in your mind, didn't you? You immediately got a picture in your mind of some dude that did that to you. You immediately got a picture in your mind of somebody that you felt like was out of your league and he kept playing games with you. Blew kisses at you. Like, and he was playing games, what have you. I seen the guys in my family do that with women. Because they knew that they looked good. And they knew if I did that to a girl who's a 10, she's going to roll her eyes. Because she know that she can get anybody. She can get, she has a bigger playing field of men. So they like to go after women who they feel doesn't have that big of a playing field. And they like to get you because you're more likely to give up your social security check. You're more likely to give up your income tax check. You're more likely to give up the draws. You're more likely to go under the influence. I know when I'm talking because it gets quiet over here. Because you know why? The wheels in your mind start to move because you start realizing, dang it, they got me. They got me. But they have a tendency to do that. They like to go, and matter of fact, they like to do this game of make-believe. And what I mean by make-believe is they like to get in relationships and convince themselves that they're in love with you, even though they know that they're not, because they want to see what you're like in love with them. They love to be worshiped. They love to be worshiped. They love having people there that are worshiping them and looking at them a certain way. They love that. They love that. And as soon as you're no longer doing that, you're going to become a history lesson. But they're always under the influence of thoughts. They're always under the influence of thoughts. They're always having a bunch of thoughts and ideas. And these are Delilah spirits. They're always under the influence of imaginations. And they will always bring you under the influence of whatever they're under the influence of. Think Eve. She was under the influence of Satan's lies. Oh, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you that you should believe a lie? She was under the influence. So anytime a person is under the influence, it's going to be puff, puff, pass. Anytime somebody's under the influence, they'll always try to bring you under the influence of the lie. They will always, because they can't, a person who's under the influence of lies cannot sit there and have a conversation with you when you're sober minded, because can two walk together or even talk together unless they be agreed? It's just too much arguing. I've had conversations with people where I'm sober minded and they're under the influence. This is why I say when I come in contact, if you tell me that you got a man and you start telling me, Tiffany, I think he the one for me, and I say, okay, well, is he saved? Yeah, I mean, he kind of is. He goes to church. He believes in God. He even talks about God, but I ain't gonna lie, he got an anger problem. And I said, sis, that's not it. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. I mean, we all got our stories. I'm gonna leave you alone. Like, I'm not gonna go past that. I know right there, that's a stop sign for me, because that's a stop sign for God. That means that you don't want God's counsel. You literally chose experience. And if you choose experience, then you got to go the long route. But you'll come to the same conclusion that I could have gave you in 5 minutes. Okay. Not just me, any wise counselor. The Bible says there is what? Safety and a multitude of counsel. I can tell you because I used to be in a world. I can tell you because I was a demonized woman hanging around a bunch of demonized people. I can tell you because I came out of a demonized family. I can tell you because I got delivered. More than anything, I can tell you because I have Holy Spirit. So I can tell you, sis, run for your life. But if you sit there and you get into, well, I mean, I don't believe everybody. I'm not gonna keep going, because then I'll become the villain in your love story, and I'm not interested. I become the villain in your love story. I have to let you go on that trip, which is the same thing God does. He has to let you go on that trip so that you can come back to the same conclusion. I'll see you 3 years later or 3 months later, whenever you're running for your life. I'll see you then. And when you come talking about, can I talk to you? I gotta tell you, I just been going through a whole lot. Oh, I know you have. I know you have. But you know what? You can go set up a counseling session over here or over there. The reason is because my voice you didn't believe. And the minute you show me that my voice doesn't have enough weight, then I'm gonna tell you, hey, you had to go somewhere else. Because in that you're saying, hey, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I gotta see for myself. There are two types of prophets and prophetic people. Ones who prefer experience, and ones who prefer wisdom. Which one are you? I used to be the one that had to have experience. I had to have experience, and I got experience, and I got a lot of crazy stories because I chose experience over wisdom. I got a lot of crazy stories. I can tell you stories that will have you in stitches laughing about crazy stuff I've done in my life because I chose experience. I don't choose experience now. I choose wisdom, because experience is the long way to the same conclusion that wisdom could have given you in a matter of moments or a matter of minutes. Experience is the long way. Is that you? It's a experience comes with delay. Experience means that you have to be 15, 20, or 55 years behind where you could have been had you got wise counsel and you put your flesh and let your flesh be crucified. Natural Nikki, you're beautiful. Thank you, sis. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. You can choose wisdom, and wisdom will save you a lot of time. You'll just have to have your heart broken at that moment and just say, you know what, I trust God. Or you can choose experience because you like the feeling and you got this love story in your mind, and the person that's trying to give you wisdom is all of a sudden the villain. And when they become the villain, God will relieve them of you. And you choose that route. You can go down that route, but that's the long way to the same conclusion. But they are always under the influence of thoughts. I'll talk about it, Sister Misha, shortly. But they're always under the influence of thoughts, and they always have to bring you under the influence. I was thinking about you last night. I was thinking about our kids. What kids? You know the kids we're gonna have in the future. You think you ain't gonna have kids with me? Boy, stop. They always got to get you in that same place. Sister Mariah, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. God bless you. Got to get you in the same place. I was thinking about, I got to have a junior. Boy, now I don't even like your first name. I don't care. You're going to give me a junior. I just want the baby to have your cute little nose. My nose? My nose? What do you want to have my nose for? But you know what? Nah. And then the baby got to have my eyes. You attracted to your own eyeballs? No, I'm just saying, because, I always want me a child that looked like me, but I was thinking I want my baby to have my eyes and your nose. And then when we go our honeymoon, I was thinking it's going to be between Hawaii and Dubai. They got to bring you, it's called future faking. They got to give you something to look forward to place value in, something to believe for, something to get excited about. something to get excited about. And as soon as you get excited about it, most of the time when people break up, you want to know the reason it's hard for them to get over the person. It's not the person that they have trouble getting over, it's the plans. It's not the person that they have trouble getting over, it's the plans that they made with another person. We were supposed to have 3 kids. We were supposed to have our honeymoon in Dubai, and we were going to leave Dubai. And he said he wanted to go to Afghanistan because I don't know why he into that kicky stuff. He said it was something about getting a hotel in the midst of gunfire that turned him on, and we were gonna go into the hotel and stuff like that, and we were gonna put on our camouflage, and we were gonna play, warrior up in the place while we heard real bombs and gunshots going off in the background, and we was gonna then leave that place. And he said we were gonna come home, and then the first 3 months, he said in the month of October, he said because he wanted to have a June baby, so in the month of October he was gonna get me pregnant, and we were gonna have our child. And he said he had a dream that he was gonna have twins, so we were supposed to have twins and all of that stuff. And people can't get over that. We was supposed to have twins, but yeah, I don't know what happened. Now he got plans with the other woman. Now he making the same plans with her, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. People have trouble getting over that. That's why I tell people you got to relate. You got to erase. Like whenever a person walks out of your life, you have to erase all of the things that came with them, all of those plans. If you don't erase those plans, typically what's going to happen is you're going to ruin your other relationships by trying to make somebody else fit into plans you made for somebody else. Women, ladies, you're guilty of that most of the time. Right in the center of Afghanistan, he wanted to make love while they were, and then he wanted to do some daring stuff. They didn't want you to wear, cover your face and all that. And what do you call those things again? Hijab. He wanted me to wear a hijab, and he said he was gonna get under the hijab with me, and it was gonna look like I had a big butt, but he was gonna be behind me making love, and nobody was gonna know. They were gonna think I was twerking a little bit or what have you. We was supposed to run in the middle of gunfire. It was supposed to be. People have plans. Let me stop. But people have plans, right? You have to get rid of all of the old data. You have to get rid of all of that. That's what keeps people in soul ties. But they are under the influence of thoughts. Number 4, this is the one you need to hear. People who have the Delilah spirit have little to no staying power. They're not going to stick around. I'm sorry, y'all. It always gets like this in the middle of the night. But they have little to no staying power. When I had that spirit, I'll kick you to the curb like it was nothing, because I had the spirit of rejection. Because wherever you find a Delilah spirit, you will always find a spirit of rejection. Wherever you find a Delilah spirit, you will always find the spirit of rejection. When I had that spirit, I had no staying power. I would kick you to the curb in a second. I don't care how fine you were, how much money you had, or what have you. I would kick you to the curb. And people say, well, Tiffany, I'm trying to figure out, like, how is it that you had these guys coming after you? Because I was a runner. I was a runner. And men, for whatever reason, chase whatever they cannot captivate. They chase whatever they cannot, like, it's all about bringing you to that space where you're in love and you're chasing them. And then they run. And you couldn't get me like that. I was too broken. And I had been around so many demonized men in my life. I already knew how they thought. I knew the game. Is that what you want to call it? I knew the game. So I was a runner. But Delilah's, they're bait. They're just used to bring you into the captivity of the enemy. That's it. Once they bring you into captivity, their job is done. They'll get bored with you. Y'all, are y'all listening? I'm telling you the truth. People of the Delilah spirit will typically get bored with you. That's the difference between Jezebel. Jezebel has staying power. Somebody with a Jezebel spirit, as long as you have power, authority, or you have something that they want, they'll stick. Delilah's don't. Delilah's always leave for something better. They always leave for something better. They have no staying power. They will always walk away from you because there's a better opportunity, a better looking guy, a better looking woman, a bigger butt, a wider smile. They will always walk away. And typically before they walk away, they will always use the launching pad of accusation to get out of the relationship. They will use a launching pad of accusation. Now, let me just put you up on game, as they say. Why do they use accusation to get out of a relationship? Because they want to leave the relationship, but they don't want to end the soul tie. Whenever a person has a Delilah spirit, they want you to remain attached or soul tied to them, but they don't want to be soul tied to you. What is this dog up to? Milo. It's a good thing about this floor. I hear paws, a pitter patter of furry feet. Where you go to, boo boo? Go lay down, okay? Go lay down. I'll be done in a minute. Go get your treat. Where's your treat? All right. But they have little to no staying power. They will always get into a relationship and say what you want to hear. Your uncle died. Oh, come here. They like to kiss people on the forehead. They like to hug you close. They like to make you feel safe. It's a false sense of security. They like to um, say everything that you want to hear. They will sit there and criticize anybody that has hurt your feelings. You say, my daddy this and my daddy that, and they say, don't worry about him no more, okay? Don't worry about him. They like to bring you under the spell. But typically, after they brought you under the spell or what have you, and they're under a spell, they're going to sober up. They're going to keep you under the spell, then they're going to sober up. But once they leave, they don't want you to completely check out. They will use accusation. The objective of accusation is, if you feel guilty, you will never let go. Somebody getting free right now. It's okay. It may not be you, but somebody on here getting free. If you feel guilty, if you feel like this man was the best thing that ever happened to you, and it's your fault that the relationship ended, you cannot let go, because you will feel that fault. That is game. You won't let go because you feel guilty. That's the reason why when people exit a relationship, they will gaslight you, even though they cheating and they're in a relationship with somebody else and they want to be with that other person, and you get in the way of their relationship. They will find some type of way to accuse you so that they can go out and they can get with that other person, but they can always keep you in the background just in case they want to come back, or just in case they want to have a rematch with you, maybe just in the bedroom. That's what Delilahs do. Delilahs never want you to be unattached from them. They always want you to be in the cut. But they usually have little to no staying power. They will not stick around. They will always sober up. It could be 2 years from now. It could be 2 months. It could be 5 years. They typically, people with a Delilah spirit like to give you a kid and run. Because people who have a Delilah spirit will say this. Raise your hand if you heard this. I want to give you a piece of me, or I want to have a piece of you. Raise your hand if you heard it. I'll wait. Right. It'll keep you in that cycle of guilt. And to keep you checking up behind them and chasing up behind them, trying to connect to their family or what have you, thinking that you messed up the greatest thing that ever happened to you. All the while they moved on in their life. But it's their way of keeping you around. Okay. Just one person heard that? Okay, they got hands. All right. I was like, what's going on? They ain't got no game no more? They always start people of Delilah spirits are almost always talking about babies. They're almost always talking about babies. And the reason some of y'all ain't raising your hand because you're entertaining Delilah right now, and you don't want to believe that Delilah is Delilah. You don't want to believe that this marine spirit, that person. See, let me tell you something about marine spirits. The reason that they want to get you pregnant, why? They need you to dedicate your child to Satan through abortion. Because once they walk out of your life and you're pregnant, now you're scared and you don't want to have the kid. That puts you, okay, I'm going to give you game. You will dedicate, or the spirit of rejection can come into your child. That means Satan can stand in as the father of your child. That's if you don't pray and repent and cover your child with the blood. Delilahs are always talking about having kids. I want you to have my baby. I want to get you pregnant. I want to get you pregnant. I want you to have a part of me. They're not going to raise the kid. They're not going to stick around because, again, they're going to use accusation as a launching pad to get out as soon as they sober up. They're going to sober up at some point, and then when they sober up, they're going to see the real you. They're going to see you for the first time in their life. Then, who the heck? What's going on? Who kid is that? Oh, that kid getting all my attention. Then they're gonna find somebody else to talk to that they're okay. Can I tell you? Y'all want the truth? Delilahs typically exit relationships by befriending other men or women. They will always start off as a friend. They will always try to befriend a person that they're trying to create a soul tie with when they're in a relationship with another person. They're going to try to cheat, but in many cases, they like to play innocent and loving and sweet. So they'll try to befriend a woman that you don't even know you're on their menu. Life is good. God bless you. Thank you, sis. Thank you. God bless you. You don't even know they're on your menu. They like to befriend you while dating her because their objective is you're next on the list. I know the devil wish he had killed me when he could have, if he could have. I know he wish he had killed, but they want to just be friends with you so they can bring you, they can test the spirit in you and they can bring you under, and they can sit there and say, I don't know, I don't know about her anymore, And you say, yeah. They like to befriend you. And once they know that they can get in a relationship with you, they'll dump her for you. Then they'll be all in love with you under the influence and then get you under the influence. And this vicious cycle repeats itself. Now they talking to you about a kid while she's in the background somewhere pregnant or she's nursing a newborn. And now they talking to you about a kid. They're talking to you about getting you pregnant and what have you. And the next thing you know, you over here nursing a child and it's just a matter of time before they exit the relationship with you with another one of their friends. You try to commit suicide. Yep, Delilahs do that. I had an ex do that when I was 14 years old. Y'all, I'll tell this story. Now I got one left, and then we'll go out of here, and then I'll go eat me some pasta. I told this story before. I was 14 years old. That's when it should have been seen that I was a really broken child. I had this little boyfriend. A guy I met going to visit one of my, I don't even know what to call her, but she raised my grandmother. So she was like I don't want to say step grandmother because she raised my grandmother. She used to be my grandmother's neighbor, but she raised my grandmother, but they called her Medea. And we went over to Medea's house. What have I told this story before? My parents had been fighting. Well, I had been fighting my parents, my dad pretty much, not physically fighting, but crying and throwing a fit about not being able to talk to boys. And you told me I'll be able to talk to guys and what have you. And my daddy finally gave in. I was 14 and 15. My dad finally gave in and said you could talk to boys, but you can't have a boyfriend and you can't go on dates. You could talk to them. You get on the phone with them or what have you. So this was the first boy that I exchanged phone numbers with once I got. Matter of fact, that was the same week I finally got permission to talk to boys on the phone. Now we had house phones. We didn't have cell phones back then. We had house phones. So we went over to Medea's house, and this is in the hood of hoods. The hood has a hood. I don't know if y'all know, but the hood of hoods. So we go over there, and if you ever go into the hood of hoods, typically everything is centralized. Like they're recycling the same girls, recycling. So whenever there's a new face that come into the hood of hoods, you like a princess. Every dude come out the house because it's fresh meat. It's like a prison. I don't know. But I go over there, and I think I was with my cousin, but all these guys are out playing basketball, but they come out every time we used to go in that neighborhood, they would litter out like roaches. I kid you not. Every time we went into that neighborhood, they'd come outside like roaches. And I got some money to go to the store because it was a store up around the corner or what have you. I got some money from one of my parents to go to the store. And there was a group of guys, right? I just really wanted to get in the midst of this group of guys because I saw one dude up in a group of guys because that's when light skin was popular. I'm not saying y'all ain't popular no more, but y'all were like the high thing. Y'all were like the it thing then. So I see this dude, he high yellow, incredibly yellow, or what have you, kid and play do on his head. And I see him, out with the guys, and they're over there playing basketball, but they kind of hanging out. And I got my eye on him. I like him. I want him. the light skinned boy. Um, so I started walking to the store, and a group of guys started following me. They trying to talk to me. You know, you always have the leader or what have you. And the light skinned guy, he's just following behind me. He's not saying anything. They're quiet in the cut. And I was like, and, you know, they want to walk me to the store. I said, nah, I like him. And he was like, I was like, yeah, you come walk with me. So they were like, all right, you know, you got the male code or what have you. So they all fell back. He walked to the store with me. I remember he was holding the basketball the whole way to the store. We talked, and I've told the story before, right? Yellow and red. I told the story before. We talked, but I was mad because he didn't ask me for my phone number. Because I finally got the permission to talk to dudes. Finally, that I can talk to guys on the phone. You know, I just can't call him my boyfriend. But who you gonna tell me? We gonna call each other boyfriend. Long story short, boyfriend and girlfriend. He didn't ask. We had a good conversation going to the store. He asked me if I had a boyfriend. I told him no, or what have you. And he told me, you know, he's like, I like you. I still like you too. So we just talking. And when we get back, he was like, all right, it was nice to meet you, Tiffany. That's how I feel. I hate being flirted with when there's no end result. I'm a solutionist, okay? I like to bring. You gotta close the deal. Don't flirt with me and then walk away. I'll stab you. But long story short, Sister Trisha, you're beautiful. Thank you, sis. God bless you. Long story short, I get in the house and the grown-ups are talking. My mind is on the light-skinned boy. Why you ask me for my phone number? How you gonna flirt with me talking about you ain't got a girlfriend either, but you didn't ask me for my phone number? So we get in the car. I go in the house. I tell my mom I met a boy, and my mom like, really? And I'm like, yeah, yeah. So I get a pen and a piece of paper. I start plotting because we're gonna have to pass by them. They out there playing basketball. We're gonna have to pass by them. I write my name and my phone number down on a piece of paper, and I fold it up. My mom she thinks it's hilarious. She's talking. My dad's like, what is she up to? So we get in the car and we're leaving, and we're passing by the group of guys. I roll down my window. I stick my whole body out the window. And I throw my phone number out the window. I throw it out. I ball it up and I throw it out. My dad says, see, you see what we create? He in the car talking noise. I see the boys running. I said, that's for him. Yellow, the red dude, that's for him. And I called his name. I remember his name. So he picks it up. He holds the paper up and waves it to let me know he got my phone number. Anyhow, me and little Yellow Bomb, we started talking. This is what I should have knew. We start talking. We talk on the phone a lot. Call ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend. I defy my daddy because at the end of the day, I'm a teenager and I finally can talk to boys. We talking on the phone. Call ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend. We talk for some time. I don't remember how long. One particular time, one of my friends. This is another city over. I told this story before. One of my friends, she goes to that city. You know, most of my family lived in that city, and a lot of her family lived in that city. So, and it was right outside the city I was born and raised in. So it was like 20 minutes away. She goes and she comes back and she's like, didn't you say you were dating? And I'll make up a name for him. We'll call him Jason. She said, didn't you say you were dating Jason? I was like, yeah. She said, light skin, kind of sandy colored hair, high fade. I was like, yeah, look, squinty eyes. I'm like, yeah. She said, he tried to talk to me. We in school, junior high. She pulls out this note and shows it to me. It's his handwriting for sure. He asked her, is she in a relationship? She told him no. She said, aren't you in a relationship? He said, no. Okay. All right. He's gonna be the first dump dude I ever. So I'm like, okay, cool. I've never been that little girl that cries over a dude. Never. I was too broken. Maybe I was too broken, or maybe it was the wiring on me. I don't know. But I said, okay. I leave. I go to my best friend's house. Once we come out of school, I'm telling my best friend about it. We go to her house. And I told her about it, and I said, yeah, I'm going to call and break it up with him. So I called him, and he was like, I talked to him. He said, hey, baby. I said, baby, nothing. I said, you just tried to talk to my homegirl. I will call her Raven. I said, you try to holler at Raven. He was like, Raven. I said, you know Raven. And I said her last name. I said, that's my best friend. He got quiet. He said, Tiffany. I said, it's over. Okay? I said, you can go chase whoever you want to be since you're not happy. I don't remember everything I'm saying, but everything I said, but that was the gist of it. You can go on by your life or what have you. He starts crying on the phone. I hang up the phone. He calls back. I'm freaking out because you can't call back because she's not allowed to have phone calls on her phone. And I'm like, stop calling her phone. Don't call her phone. He was like, and he says, hey, and I'm just showing you how Delilah's work. He's crying on the phone. He's begging. I messed up. Okay, I made a mistake. We're kids. Like, okay, dude, just go on with your life. And then he tells me he's going to kill himself. So that's something that Delilahs do. They will typically over exaggerate. They will over, and sometimes they will attempt to kill themselves. He actually did attempt to kill himself. I didn't believe him. I thought I remember what I said to him. I said, I know I'm really done with you now. I said, because if you'll kill yourself, you'll kill me. And then I hung up the phone in his face. Later on, I found out from my cousin who lived in that city. He said, what did you do to Jason? I said, what are you talking about? Because he told me he was going to go jump in the creek. That's what Jason told me, how he was going to kill himself. There was a creek out there. He was going to go jump in the creek so he could drown. And he said it was me and a bunch of dudes having to hold him back because he was trying to jump in the creek. Narc, right? He was trying to jump in the creek. And I was like, he the one trying to cheat. How you become the victim? But that's one thing about them, is that they fantasize, and they specialize so much in seduction. And the whole concept or the whole thought of losing you outside of their own terms does make them suicidal. Did you catch that? Them losing you outside of their terms will make them stalk you, become murderous, or suicidal, because that's outside of their terms. That's outside of their terms. It's not that they love you. If I was silly, if I was silly as a little girl and I thought that meant love, I would have stuck around, and I probably wouldn't be on this channel teaching y'all right now, because I'd probably been 6 feet under right now, nothing but bones. But them losing you, there are people, and I'm gonna get to number 5 and then I'm gonna let y'all go. There are people who they don't mind losing you, but just under their terms. And I understood that as a young lady, that it had nothing to do with him loving me, because if he loved me, he would have been trying to talk to my friend or trying to talk to any woman. He didn't know that was my friend, but he wouldn't have been trying to talk to my friend. So I knew it wasn't love. So what will make somebody sit up and talk about killing themselves after they got caught cheating? And I realized it had nothing to do with me. That him crying on the phone did not mean that he loved me. Ladies, you got to get delivered from, because there are too many women right now who are 6 feet deep. They're with the maker right now, or they're in another place, because they thought that a man crying over them, a man stalking them, a man begging them meant that the man loved them. That is not what that means. That's not what that means. It can mean that the man is obsessed with you. It can mean that the man is broken and traumatized and you're his great hope. It can mean that the man cannot stand to lose you outside of his terms. He can't bear the thought of losing you under your terms, because he's the guilty one. And remember the rule: the guilty one typically can't let go. He doesn't want to be that. He doesn't want to be that. Okay. Number 4 was they have little to no staying power. Somebody who has a Delilah spirit is not going to stick around. They're not going to stick around. They will either leave the relationship or they'll cheat their way out. They'll just go cold on you. They'll try to find some way to get out. Number 5, they usually have multiple people in their sights. They usually have multiple people in their sights. Somebody who has a Delilah spirit is not addicted to love. They're not addicted to people. They're addicted to a feeling that they get. People are nothing but objects to them. That's why they objectify. People are nothing but objects. If you heard me teaching about this, there's generalization, which is a high expression of trauma, but the highest expression of trauma is objectification. Somebody has a Delilah spirit objectifies other people, which means that you're nothing but an object to them. You remember Delilah in the Bible, Samson was nothing but an object for money, for her to get money from the Philistines. That's it. His life didn't matter to her. All she could do was fantasize about what her life would be like with all of that money in her hands. That's all she thought about. She thought about what she could get if she had all of that money. So she didn't think about the fact that, hey, this man is going to lose his life, or they're going to gouge out his eyes, or what have you, because she knew the practices of the Philistines. She didn't care about that. Somebody was a Delilah spirit. To them, you are an object. You're an object. You're an object for them to lust after. You are somebody that they can live with if they don't have a house. It's just objectification. It's just objectification. It's just objectification. They are always going to objectify you, which means that they will get with you not because they're in love with you, because they want to be with you, because they want to have kids with you, because they want to spend their life with you, or what have you. Yes, they can feel that, but most of the time, if they're feeling that, it's because, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say it out loud. Most of the time, they're godless, even if they go to church. And what I mean by that is they have voids, and because they have voids, they will always try to make you fit into that God-sized void in their heart, that God-sized hole. And it sets the stage for your relationship to fail because you can't be God. That dissatisfaction that they have is because they have a void. And one thing I tell you, voids have a great magnetic pull called attraction. The bigger the void, the greater the attraction. The bigger the void, the greater the attraction. So they have this big old void, they have this big old void, which causes them to be attracted to people because they feel like I'll be satisfied. This is the deception of the enemy. They feel like I'll be satisfied because remember they think a lot. They imagine a lot. They fantasize a lot. I'll be satisfied if I have him, or I'll be satisfied if I have her. Life would be better. She's smart. She's decent looking. She's this. She's that. I'll be satisfied. It can be in friends as well. They think I'll be satisfied. That sets the stage for the end of your relationship because you can't fit that void, which sets the stage for disappointment. And so they deal with perpetual disappointment in relationships. They go from this relationship to that relationship to that relationship, getting more and more and more bitter because they get in a relationship and they think you're like the great hope. You're like the Muhammad Ali. You're gonna knock down these giant in my life. You're gonna make me feel better. You're gonna fix my mommy issues. You're gonna fix my daddy issues. You're gonna be everything I've ever needed you to be. And they genuinely believe that. But at the end of it, after they've been with you for a while, the void is still there, and they're gonna blame you for it. Right? They don't let go. Let me tell you one way they keep from letting go. Let me give you a little bit of insight because they have a they will always stay within the same type, which keeps them in mind of you. They will always stay within the same type, which means they'll go after somebody that looks like you, has a lot of qualities that mirror your qualities because they're in the mind of you. You guys know I told this story about the guy with the patch that had his girlfriend come in the bathroom to tell me that the dude told her that I looked like her and we didn't look nothing alike. Said, he said I was the love of his life. I was like, how was I the love of his life? We dated 2 weeks. I never kissed him, never had sex with him. We only went on a couple of dates. That's it. We didn't talk on the phone heavily. We went on a few dates. That's it. That's all. We sat in the car in front of my auntie's house, who I was living with at the time. We sat in the car. We talked. The discussions did not end in the kiss. We did not talk about future. We did not talk about kids. None of that. We talked. We were just getting to know each other. We were still in that getting to know each other phase. And then he tried to fight me. And when he tried to fight me, I ended the relationship. That was it. I thought he could just move on. He didn't. But he had her believing that, I was the love of his life. He had her believing that I was the love of his life and that she reminded me. And 9 times out of 10, because Delilah's, when they found a woman that they really like, or they found a man that they really like, they typically stay within that same type. They don't leave, they don't get away from you. I told you I had an ex. We broke up because of his cheating and all of that. I was married to this dude. As soon as we broke up, whenever he got back in contact with me a couple of years later, about a year or so later, he tells me that he's, got somebody, and he said she reminds me of this is the closest to you I could find. I was like, why are you trying to find me? Let that girl be her own individual. They always the way what keeps them from letting you go is they keep getting people to remind them of you. Because that's what guilt does. Guilt will make you have a type. Guilt will make you have a type. Soul ties in many cases, ungodly soul ties will make you get caught up in a type. As a matter of fact, you become attracted to a demonic personality and not a person. Meaning, anytime you come in contact with a man who has that demonic personality or a woman who has that demonic personality, you're attracted to them. I've known men who are attracted to witchcraft women. Period. Point blank. I don't care what they do. They keep falling in love with witchcraft because they don't realize they're in love with witchcraft spirits. And they're prophetic people. And prophets and prophetic people love that spell that they feel when they get with those type of women. They love touching her hand and having her doing crazy stuff. They love that kind of stuff. They love it. They love that spell. They love all it. They love living under the fantasy. They love laying in the bed, listening to sounds of raindrops on YouTube, laying in the bed with incense burning in the house, staring at the ceiling, talking about kids and rubbing her stomach, talking about you might be pregnant. You might be pregnant with my baby now. They like that kind of stuff because they hate reality. They love fantasy. Right, dopamine be all up in the sky. They love to live on cloud nine, which is why they have a lot of crashes. Because cloud nine with no substance is the recipe for a crash. They love to live on cloud nine. They be laying in the bed, rubbing your stomach, and talking about, son, you might be pregnant. You might be pregnant. And you're like, what stop? Yeah, I'm telling you, cause I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't, I ain't move. I ain't pull out. I ain't want to use that phrase, but it is what it is. I ain't pull out. You might be pregnant. You might be pregnant. And you sitting there all caught up in a fantasy because right then and there that tells you, well, if I am pregnant, I'll get the response that every female wants. He's going to be happy. Yes, a person with a Delilah spirit, in a lot of cases, will be happy at the announcement of a kid. They will rub your belly throughout your pregnancy. They will kiss your belly throughout your pregnancy. But again, they have no staying power. Was that number four? Yep, they have little to no staying power. They will stick around when the kid is born. But typically, the birth of your child marks the end of your relationship. Mad gas. The birth of your child starts their exodus because you, in that moment, they want your attention. They want to be your God. In that moment, that child is getting your attention. So when you start, when responsibility enters a relationship, Delilah exits. Right? It's always on purpose. They will always try to get you pregnant because they it's a fantasy of theirs. They live in this world of fantasy. And a lot of times we get caught up with them because they'll sell you that dream. Like I said, they will bring you under the influence. But once they bring you under the influence, you're sitting there like, oh my God, I love this feeling because it is an addictive feeling. It is a beautiful feeling. You're like, I love this feeling. I love the feeling of thinking about having his kid and us holding our baby and him looking over my shoulder while I'm holding the kid, and I look up and he kissed me and I kiss him. And the next thing we take our picture, with our naked baby in our hand, and then it's gonna happen. We're gonna have our second kid and we're gonna spend the rest of our lives together. Delilahs are great fantasy lovers. They're not great reality lovers. Right. They do. They will start fights because they love making up. They are great fantasy lovers. They're not great reality. They don't handle reality. They're very weak. They don't handle the reality very well. And remember this: they are marine spirit, so that's a marine spirit in them. And okay. They have marine spirits in them, and with those marine spirits, the objective is to bring you under the control of the enemy. The objective is to bring you into idolatry. The objective is to distract you. The objective is to pull you away from your destiny, your assignment. Because as a prophet or prophetic person, you're supposed to be yielding yourself to God, but the enemy will always find a way to get you to yield yourself to them. And prophets and prophetic people, because you are incredibly sensitive, because you are uberly sensitive, most prophets and prophetic people are ensnared by sensuality. You love sensuality. An enemy specializes in sight. Delilah comes decorated, smell. They know there are pheromone perfumes that people use to bring people under a spell. To make people, it's supposed to make men come after you. Like, why would you want somebody to come after you who's not coming after you soberly? Touch. They specialize in touch. They know where to touch you and how to touch you. Somebody who has a Delilah will so ever so softly grab your hand. Because you know what? It sends chills down you. Right? If you're a prophet or a prophetic person, it's like they like creating moments. They like smell. Well, we already talked about that. What was it? Touch, taste. Um, People of Delilah spirit, a lot of times, they like to feed the stomach, right? Um, I'm gonna cook for you. I'm gonna cook for you. They specialize in sensuality. A lot of women who have Delilah spirits, they be on Facebook posting, on Instagram posting up everything they cook. And there's nothing wrong with posting up what you cook, but a lot of times those are fat man thirst traps. We can call them what it is. It's a fat man thirst trap. It's just trying to show him that, hey, listen, on top of everything else, I can cook. It's a fat man's thirst trap. And then what is it? Sight, taste, smell, hearing. They always say the right things. They always say the right things. They specialize in words. They are witches. They specialize in spells. And those spells are typically, I'm in love with you. I don't know what I'd do without you. I want to be with you. You don't have to worry about me leaving. You got me. They will speak these agreements with you and get you to speak it and intertwine yourself with them, but they will almost always leave. They will always almost leave. Number 5 again was they usually have multiple people in their sights. They usually have no way to differentiate between a man and a husband, or a woman and a wife. They don't know the difference. So they always have multiple people because they're always looking for somebody to fit that God-sized void, that mommy-sized void, that daddy-sized void. They're always looking for somebody to fill their void. Instead of looking for God, they're always looking for somebody. And typically prophets and prophetic people fit their description. And let me say this, and then I'm gonna let y'all go. A lot of times, Sister Lakita, you're awesome. Thank you. Love you, sis. Love you. A lot of times, they love to go after people who are incredibly anointed. Remember Samson in the Bible? They love to go after people who are incredibly anointed because they're demonized people, or demons like anointed people, because demons got kicked out of heaven. So the anointing in their mind brings them as close to God as possible. They love anointed people, whether you know how anointed you are or not. And a lot of times you will find out how anointed you are based on who you attract. You will find out how anointed you are based on who you attract. So a lot of times when you're dealing with Delilahs, you will attract, let's say, for example, I can tell you, if I had paid attention to my life had a pattern. My life had a pattern when I was a young lady. My life had a pattern. And one of the things that my friends used to ask me, and I didn't understand it when I was in the world, what are you doing to these guys? And I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand what that meant because, I know that they were trying to figure out what was happening because my life or my story didn't look like theirs. And I'm being honest. It didn't look like theirs. It didn't look like me getting dumped. It didn't look like me crying over a guy. They worked with me for many years. And so they saw guys coming up to the store. They saw guys bringing me flowers. They saw guys that were locked and loaded and trying to really heavily pursue me. And they saw me running like a roach with the lights on. And they couldn't figure it out because, a lot of them were in their minds tens. Like, what is it about her that she get these dudes that are tens and they crazy about her? They're trying to figure it out. But of course, one thing about it, a lot of people don't realize something that demons know. Men are hunters by nature. They will always chase what runs. Always. Most of them anyhow, unless they deal heavily with rejection. They will typically chase what they can't have. But they didn't understand it or what have you. Like I said, I can come on here. I can do a live with just story times that will have you laughing. But it just shows, like I said, the grace on my life. Because the grace on my life, because of the grace on my life, I thank God for not burdening me with the emotions that a lot of women had as it relates to men. Sister Giselle, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. Because of the grace of my life, some people think it was a trauma. It could have been a combination of both. But I wasn't burdened with the emotions that a lot of you have where you're crying over a dude. I experienced that a couple of times, but not so much in my life. I didn't experience that a whole lot because that's the grace on my life. The grace on my life is to be, I sober myself up with the truth. Whereas most people induce themselves with lies. I sober myself up with the truth. That man don't care nothing about you. That man don't love you. That man think he love you. Or what have you. I sober myself up with the truth. And I won't allow myself to go too far. Whereas most women will go all the way into the ditch, go all the way into the pits. They'll go all the way into the butt crack of hell looking for love. They'll go deep and they'll believe everything that they're being told simply because when you're dealing with women, a lot of times we are slaves of fantasy, and we like to allow ourselves to float off and throw our inhibitions to the wind. We like to go deep and just allow ourselves to get lost. We like to gamble and hope that we turn around and win. And no matter how many times we lose, we still will go back and gamble again. We're still willing to pull the long arm of rejection and sit up there and say, well, I'm going to see this time if it's going to work. And then you keep finding yourself in one relationship after the other with a broken heart until you become bitter. And once a woman becomes bitter, you can't tell her that she's bitter no more, because at the end of the day, she thinks she got game and you just don't understand. So that's the thing. That's the thing. Delilah spirit, again, is one of the many marine spirits. I'll be coming back out to teach more on marine spirits, so stay tuned. We did the Delilah spirit. I'm going to come back and I'm going to teach on the Jezebel spirit. I'm going to teach on the mermaid spirit because I think that spirit is very, very rarely spoken of. Right, a lot of people who get ensnared by Delilah, I think Delilah hurts more people than most people. Like, I think Delilah, the reason Delilah hurts so bad when a person comes in contact with Delilah is because they are skilled at getting you to tell them your secrets. They are skilled at getting you to open up. This is what Delilah did to Samson in the Bible. They're skilled at getting you to open up. And they're very good at gaining your trust. They're very good at getting you to put down your guard. They're very skilled at getting you to believe that y'all are going to be together for the rest of your lives. They are very skilled at getting you to kind of just relax with them. They give you a false sense of security, and then all of a sudden they ghost you. They typically are sudden ghosters. They're typically sudden ghosters, meaning a lot of times you don't see it coming. You don't see it coming. It's just, all of a sudden you just, are you okay? Because usually when I see you, there are butterflies and cotton candy, and it's a lot of things, like holding hand. And you're like, yeah, I'm good. Typically in that case, you're in the benediction part, where the pastor has told the congregation to rise, but he hadn't exactly let y'all go yet. So you're in the beginning part. You're in the genesis of the benediction. Okay. You're in the genesis of the benediction. So you're about to get let go. That is Delilah. If you want to know more about that particular spirit, like I said, it's something I used to wrestle with. You can get my book, Devil Bait, High Heels and Spiritual Warfare. I tell my story. I talk about how broken I was as a woman, or what have you. You can go to Amazon and you can get, or what have you. You can go to Amazon and you can get that particular book. Again, I will come back. Lastly, just a reminder, if you want to learn more about deliverance and if you need deliverance, 4665 Macklin Road, Saturday at 11 a.m., Embassy City Church. Here in Atlanta. And if you don't remember the address, it's still coming up on Google as Relentless in Powder Springs. It's in Powder Springs. But it's 4665 Macklin Road, 11 o'clock. Come out. You will get delivered. You will learn. If you feel like you're called to ministry deliverance, you'll get spiritual principles, everything that you need. Come out. This week, Pastor Audrey is going to be teaching. Next week, Prophetess Joanne. And then the third week is going to be me. And we're going to be doing mass deliverances. So come out if you need deliverance. Bring your whole family. Come on out. Make it a vacation. Get yourself out of there. Don't sit at the house with demons and then be inboxing me talking about some. Tiffany, can you take me? Girl, did you come to the conference? No. Oh, yeah, I'm inbox. No, we're not going to do no private. We're not doing it. I'm trying to get you guys to come out. We got to get past the guilt and the shame. We talked about that earlier. Anyhow, again, that's 11 o'clock, Embassy City, from 11 to 12:30 noon or 12:30 p.m. At Embassy City every Friday for the next 3 weeks. We had my apostle last Saturday. It was amazing. So if you missed it, he's going to have the CD where you can take the course. I would highly recommend that you take the course as well so you can get the CD where you can hear what he taught, because he did amazing as always. Anyhow, I love y'all, and I shall talk to you soon. I'll be back out in the next couple of days because I didn't come out and teach on Sunday. And so typically I do Sundays and Wednesdays. That's the reason I came out on tonight, because I just got through teaching my class and keep forgetting this. But yeah, I just got to teaching my class, and that's that. So I decided to come out and give my Sunday teaching now, and then I'll come back this week and do Wednesday. But Wednesday is typically news, so we'll see what we're talking about on Wednesday. Anyhow, I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye. Yeah, the CDs will be out for sale. They'll be out for sale. A part of the e-course. All right, good night. I will say, Sister Allison, come to the Deliverance Conference. If you're states away and you can't come, set up a session with Apostle Ivory Hopkins. You can go to pilgrimsministry.org and set up a session with him. All right. I love y'all. Talk to you soon.